Hi everyone, Shane here. I'm going to do a little tutorial for you on trying to sort out your type identification issues. There seems to be a fair bit of confusion from some of you. Sorry, if I don't take that off, it's going to make too much noise. So I'll just go through it. It's not that hard. Well, it's tricky. But you just have to kind of follow some clear steps. So Whatthefont is one of the best sources for testing your font, but you have to upload a clean scan. It has to be a high resolution scan and it has to be cleaned up. So the one in front of me here is Tevao's. Sorry, Tevao, I don't know how to say your name. So this kind of pinkish looking apricot colored thing is probably, I think, what Tevao was uploading, and he's had a lot of trouble. And it's understandable because you can see that there's not a high resolution when we zoom in. Very hard to see the edges. So the algorithm is going to have trouble identifying that because that's what the font uses. Excuse me. So what I tried first was I basically did a screen grab. So I zoomed into this point. Command-Shift-4 gives you the opportunity to select a specific area of the screen. So I took, I think, this line like this. Took the screen grab and went to Photoshop. And then I opened it in Photoshop. And as you can see, it looks pretty rough. So then what I did is I basically converted it to that and then tried that. So what I did was to convert it is I cleaned it up as best I could. So the first thing I did from memory is converted it to black and white. So I went up to image, mode, sorry, no, where is it again? Image adjustments, black and white. And then I just kind of tweaked these to sort of get rid of as much of the other colors as I could. Wait, you know what? I think I must have done an auto levels first. I did. So I did an image adjustment auto levels, which is basically go to levels and then go to auto, which is here. And that gave me that. And then I went to image adjustments black and white. That's what I did. And then I tweaked these. So what these do is it's converting it to black and white, but it's also converting it via the channels, the kind of color channels. So it's kind of knocking back. I'm just trying to get rid of any of this mess in the background. And then I think I zoomed in and I grabbed my quick select tool, which is the W tool. And then I just dragged down the letter form here like that. And then I went up to select similar. And it's kind of, it tried to select similar tones. And then I've hit, well, I've gone up to inverse, select inverse. And then I've hit delete. So now I've gone down here to make it look a bit clearer. I've added a new layer, put it behind it and filled that layer with white. So that's what I've ended up with. Deselect, and then in fact undo. So I'm going to reselect that again now. Just let me go back here. Did I get it? Yeah, reselect. I'm just going to make it a little bit darker. Okay, deselect. And then I save that. Let me just check. This is the other one I'd done earlier. It's a little bit blacker, but I'll use the one I've just done. So I'm just going to save that as Tevao 3 JPEG. Put that on my desktop. Now I'm going to go to Whatthefont. And you'll see down here, I don't know if anyone has read it, but you can only upload one line of text and it has to be a clean resolution image. And the other trick to this is you should try to upload an image that has distinctive letter forms. So for example, a capital W, lowercase a, lowercase g, capital Q, any numbers, anything that's got a slightly unusual kind of curve or shape to it, like sometimes the lowercase f, sometimes lowercase t's. Okay, so here it goes, it's looking. And if this does what it did before, yeah, it's selected a whole range of sort of hand-lettered fonts. Hope you can see those. Because the image resolution is so rough, and I've kind of made it worse. But in fact, this I didn't get before. This is Clinica Pro Thin. Okay, so that's a clean typeface, which might be an option. There we go. So Clinica Pro Thin. That looks like an option. That looks a little bit like what we've ended up with, which I've chosen Fira Sans. I think that's pretty close, but I'll explain how I got to Fira Sans. So, but can you see here that this has not been a very fruitful exercise? The top hit is a really ugly looking hand-drawn face, typeface. So this didn't work. So what's the option? Okay, so what I did next is I went to InDesign and I just created a file and I typed out the letters. So in the top here now, right at the top, I've just placed, if I move, that's just, this top one here is literally the Taveo's image that I just cleaned up in Photoshop. So I just placed that image. If I zoom in, you'll see it's pixeled, right? Pixelated. That's the image. So place it here, and then I just typed out the same text with a type tool, and then I had a best guess. So I tried, I think from memory, DIN, D-I-N, which is, this one reminded me of DIN. So if I zoom out here a bit, okay. So the first one I think I tried was DIN Pro. So you can see it's similar. The difference is that there's a little kick on the lowercase a here. Instead of the stroke going straight down, so it kicks out slightly, a bit like a serif. And the L is similar. So this is not bad, and this would probably do as an alternative if we couldn't find anything else. You can see the lowercase e, the terminal here, has a diagonal terminal, and here there is a diagonal terminal on this lowercase e, but it's a little bit, the aperture is a little bit smaller. And you can see the O's here a little bit more elliptical, perhaps. It's hard to say really, because this again is so rough. Okay, so what did I do then? I tried DIN Pro. Now this is where, let me just put that back to where it was, because I've got these labeled. So the one on the top was, the one I tried was DIN Pro. Okay, so now what you can do in InDesign, which is pretty cool, if I just copy this one for the moment, and I'll just bring it down here. So if you have a typeface that you know, if you have a typeface in your system, so this is obviously on my computer because I've typed it out, right? So it's there, as opposed to the image of Taveo's scan, right? I don't have that typeface on my computer yet. I'm looking for it. So I typed out the sentence, and then I chose DIN Pro because I recognized that was a bit similar. So you could pick anything that you think's close to it. So you could just go through your fonts and pick a sans serif font. For example, if you open your character font here on the right, so if you're not sure where that is, go up to Workspace, go to Typography, and you'll get your character font, character tool panel. So you can do a search based on classes or categories. So currently this is all classes, but I could do a search based on sans serif, and this is giving me all my sans serif fonts, and there's so many it's a bit confusing. You can, however, do a search based on similar, which is amazing. This is not that older feature. Show similar fonts. So what I've got now is basically DIN Pro click on here. This little wavy line device means search similar or filtering similar, and I've got now only about 15 different fonts that it thinks are similar to DIN Pro. So you can see here we've got DIN Regular, DIN Light, etc. And you can see a bit of a preview over here. It's a bit hard to see at this scale, but it's something. So then what I did is I came out and I just copied this a few times, knowing the first one was DIN Pro. So I set the second one, went to similar and tried DIN Light. And then I set the third one into the similar, and I think I then tried, what's this one? Something else. Yep, that's not bad. I'll just make that a touch smaller. And then the fourth one, I think, I don't know if I tried, oh yeah, I did try Acumen, but it's quite different. When I say quite different, what can we show you? Yes, like Helvetica, this has horizontal or terminals or vertical terminals. So see the lowercase a has a horizontal terminal and the lowercase r has a vertical terminal, and the lowercase e has a horizontal terminal. So if we go up to Teveo's scan, no, okay, we've got horizontal, vertical, but that's the lowercase a is slightly, it's not quite horizontal, I don't think. Well, again, it's hard to tell. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. I have a feeling the lowercase e is not horizontal in the terminal. But again, it's very hard to say because of the quality of the scan, you see. Okay, so what did I try then? I think that's when I tried Fira. So we go back here to Fira Sans. Ah, wait, no, it's not showing up. So that was interesting too, yes. So if you have, let's try that one. What did I find? One of them. Yeah, there you go. So even though when I had DIN Pro selected, it gave me URW DIN as a similar, and then it also gave me Kohinoor Devangari, whatever that is. But when I then select Kohinoor and look for a similar to Kohinoor, it then gave me Fira Sans. I hope that makes sense. So the similar filter, search for similar filter on the character tool panel of InDesign does a pretty good job, but you might have to keep trying other similar fonts and search for similar ones of them. So I found Fira Sans kind of like 2 layers in, if that makes sense. So here we go. I'll just put in Fira Sans now. So Fira Sans, and it was a light. Oops. Okay. So the bottom one here is Fira Sans light, and if I copy that now and take it back, sit it close to this, I think you will find it's pretty close. Okay. It's not perfect by any means. In fact, it's not as good as it really. Yeah. The F's not right. The lowercase f's not right. Maybe it isn't Fira Sans after all. Maybe it's yeah, it could be DIN Pro Lite, but see the lowercase a is different. But look, here's the thing. 1 second. We've got to keep in mind, keep in perspective what the purpose of this task is. The purpose of this task is for you to start to notice the subtle differences in typefaces and then have a go at typesetting those in a respectable, typographically conventional format following good typographic principles. So it's definitely not about buying a typeface. You know, unless you happen to have that money and you want to buy it, go for it. But you don't have to spend money on this exercise. So the main thing is to try to identify the font. And if this was me, I would say I haven't been able to identify it, but it's very close to Fira Sans Light and what was my other alternative? I think it was Fira Sans Light's got the A, but I think Din Pro Light has got some of the other characteristics. So I reckon it's a combination of Fira Sans Light and Din Pro Light. Not a combination. It's close to those two. Right, so it's somewhere in there. And if you submit that to me as part of your submission, say, Shane, I couldn't find it. I think it's a combination of these two, or not a combination. Sorry, I'm a bit tired. It's a, you know, it's similar to these two. That's pretty good. And then if you said, right, now I'm going to use this one as a replacement because it's all I can afford or achieve at this point, and I recognize that it looks heavier, or, you know, the color, which is the kind of gray scale smoothness of the texture that the characters are making in the column of text. It's like the kind of tone of the column of text. The color is different. You can say, oh, the color's a little bit different. It's heavier, or it's lighter, or it's whatever. So all that stuff, that's what matters. If you can do all that and you can't find exactly the typeface, but you're close to it, and you can't afford to buy the actual typeface, but you find a similar one, then that's totally respectable and will get high marks if you can go to that level of detail and if you do a good job of setting that. So that's what we're after. Okay, so what do we do there? We learnt that if we're going to use Whatthefont, which works very well, and I'll try to show you an example where it does work, it'll work very well if you have a relatively common typeface, and if you have a really good clean scan. It has to be a good clean scan. It has to be horizontal, it has to have a clean white background, and it has to be only one line of text. And ideally include in that some characters that are a little bit unusual, like a lowercase a lowercase g, capital W, lowercase f, and some numbers, etc. Because numbers are easy to identify sometimes. So if that doesn't work, then you try, well, Typekit again is pretty good. So again, let's try another alternative. Okay, so if I'm now back at InDesign and I want something similar to Din Pro Light, okay, so I've selected it. I go to Character, I go to Add Fonts from Typekit. So I'm going to go in there now. Hang on, does it work that way? No, I can add, when I'm searching, if I click on, sorry, what's going on? Select all. What's going on here? Oh, I've got to turn the filter off. There you go. So I had to turn the search similar filter off. Click on Typekit Filter. And what that's going to do is show Typekit fonts in my system that are already downloaded or synced. Then I can click Show Similar Fonts. So here it's got URW, which is a URW Din is a Typekit font, and Roboto Light. Let me try Roboto Light. That's pretty close as well. These are very modern. This is a very modern style of typeface. The Din kind of open, semi-condensed, thin, sans serif fonts with a bit of character. These are quite a modern design, and there's a fair few around. Sorry, what am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is you can also try searching Typekit. So let's just do that. Let's go into Typekit and try to find something. I don't know if it lets you do a similar search on the way in, but let's try it. So I'm going to select the font that I think is close. I'm going to go to Add Fonts from Typekit. So this takes you to the website. So if you've got a subscription, it'll take you straight there. I think I've maxed out my number of downloadable fonts at the moment, so I'll see how this goes. But what you do in here is you know, you could type in the similar text here. What's my text again? Let me just go back, copy that, go back here. So I'm just typing in the same line of text, and then you can see it's giving me that in the readout. This is also, by the way, a handy thing. If you need just a heading from a type foundry, you can just type in the few words from your heading, like letters of language of letters, and then, you know, you might be able to enlarge it to the point where you can get some good screen grabs. Like I could screen grab this word built here right now, and I could patch that together with the next word, right, and build my little word, my little heading up. So that's, you can do that from a type foundry. That if you find out again what the font is, go to the type foundry. A foundry is the name of the shop that sells it online. And where do we go? Typekit, browse fonts, and you can, you know, patch together a heading that way. But let's say we're coming in here, we're looking for a here we go. We're looking for a typeface. So what you do is you go to the classifications. Now we know it's a sans serif. Click that. We know it's a relatively, it's a paragraph font. It's not a display font, so it's a body text font. So click on this one. We know it's a relatively thin weight. It's either a medium, like a regular, or a thin. Okay, so it's one of these. Let's try thin. Okay, now I'm going to go to width. So width is the shape, like the kind of, look at this, say those B's there. If I get the fat ones, there's only a few of them, right? So they're the kind of, it's not the stroke weight, it's the width of the body. Right? The width of these bodies are condensed. So I'll go for a medium width. The X height, let's go back and have a look at the X height on the image. The X height is quite tall, right? So this is a large X height relative to the ascenders. Oops, sorry. Right, the X height, the the height of the lowercase letter forms is 2/3 the height of the ascenders. So that's what we call a relatively high high X height. And click on that one. And the contrast, this is the stroke weight contrast. It's basically constant. So I'm going to click on this one. And we don't know what sort of numerals there are yet. I don't know for sure. But if you had a certain numeral style, so this is called, I think it's, I don't know what it's called. This is like the modern version of numerals, which all the numbers are the same height and they don't go below the baseline. This is a more traditional form, or an old style form, where you have the ascenders and descenders going. So do we have anything here? Let's have a look. Museo Sans, Stevio Sans, Freight Sans. That's not quite it. That's not quite it. Fira Sans. Okay, so there we go. We've ended up with Fira Sans. So that's obviously a, I didn't know it was a Typekit font. I thought that was another font foundry. There you go. Okay, so that's how you might find an approximation, right? So all we did there was looked on the characteristics of the font, and we found something very similar. And that's using Typekit, which all of you should have if you've got a subscription to Adobe. Okay, now let's go back and we'll do a quick go at using Whatthefont, but I'm going to use it for one with a better scan. So here we go. I think if I'm going to zoom into this one, just see if it, yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, we're in quite close here. This is body text. This belongs to, who does this belong to? I don't know. Yes, I do. Brittany. So this is Brittany's group 2, I think we're in. And so what I'm going to do here, I'm going to just try to identify this typeface. So what I'm going to do is look for something that has some specific characters. Like here we've got some italic, which is a different typeface. but it might influence the algorithm. Here we've got lowercase g, right? Perfect. Lowercase a's and e's are important. Got a couple of capitals here. We've got apostrophes or quotation marks, I should say. Got some numbers here. So what I might do is get something with a number. Yep, here we go. Right, it was founded in 1903 by Walter Barry, and we've got a capital S and we've got a bracket. So Command Shift 4 gives me my little ability to select a certain area. Open, that's the screen grab. Open that in Photoshop. Okay, this is going to be pretty easy. It's very clean, which is great. So I'm just doing an auto levels check. I'm going to erase the background. No, I'm not. I'm just going to use it as it is. I think this is going to be fine. So I'll just save that as Brittany and put that on my desktop. I'm going to go back to Whatthefont, upload a new image, click here, go to Brittany, or Brittany as I've written. Hang tight while it uploads. It's a nice, clean, horizontal scan. I don't think there's going to be any problems here. In fact, I think I'd already done this for Brittany earlier from memory. So what I did there is I stretched the little crop thing out so it covers the whole line. I think you're going to have more chance of a hit if you have at least 5 or 6 words in the line. And there we go. We've got a very good hit here with Palatino. If I just bring that down, you'll see, zoom in a bit. So this is my scan, or Brittany's scan, and this is the typeface she's chosen. Let's look at the numbers. Look at the 3 here. You can probably see, oh, what have I done there? Sorry. The number 3, can you see that? It's very similar. The curves and this little kick up here on the kind of whatever that's called there. I don't know what that would be called actually. It's almost like it's like a serif, slight serif on the bottom edge of the bowl here of the lowercase part of the 3. The 9 is very similar. The 1 is very similar. The lowercase d, I think this is spot on. Lowercase a, very similar. There's a slight difference, a very slight difference, but it could be an issue with the scan. So I'm going to say almost certainly that this is either Palatino Roman. Oh, here we go. We've got Palatino linotype. Okay, so there's a slight different cut here. What's the difference? What's the difference? Okay. Don't know. Taking too long to figure it out. This seems to be ever so slightly lighter, thinner, but not barely recognizably so. So Palatino, right? So that's pretty good. Now, Palatino is a relatively common font. I'll see if I've got it on my system. Font book. Why aren't I going to font book? Where's my font book gone? Okay. I know I have this. I've used it a fair bit. Okay, so there's Palatino. So what if you didn't have Palatino? Okay, so let's look for a similar one. So let's go back to InDesign. Let's go down here and I'm going to find, just going to select a bit of text. And I want to look for something similar to Palatino in Typekit. Okay, so I'm just going to type Palatino typeface, select it. I'm going to set it. Hang on, is this going to work? No, because I already got it, right? So it's not going to work. No. Sorry, that's probably not going to help you there because I've already got it on my computer. So what I could do is I could do a kind of a brand new search of Typekit, right? I'm going to go into Typekit now and I'm going to do another search here. I'm going to look for a serif. I'm going to look for a paragraph serif. I'm going to look for a medium weight, a medium width. I'm going to look for a medium height and a medium contrast stroke. And the numbers from memory, we go back there. What were the numbers doing again? Oh, even. So you can see here we've got, it's not as high an X height or large an X height as the other one we were looking at. So we'll try that. Back to Typekit. Where are we going, Shane? Yeah, okay. So now what we've got is, we've got an option here of Minion, which is an Adobe built into most Mac computers. So you're all going to have that one. Here's Bookmania. Oh, now someone was asking me about Bookmania. It's a Typekit font. I didn't know that at the time, but there it is. And Mrs. Eves, which I have. So looking for something like Palatino in Typekit, I've found Minion. So let's try Minion. I'm pretty sure I've got that on my computer. Let me just try that. Let's set this in Minion. I've got to come out of there. I've got to come out of, sorry, I've got to come out of there. I've got to go into Serif. And I've got to go into, didn't even need to do that. I need to go to bed, I think. Okay, what am I looking for? Minion. What's going on, Shane? Minion Pro. Okay, so that's Minion Pro Italic. And yeah, see there's all these heaps and heaps of styles. Minion Pro Regular. Let's try that. Okay, so there's my Minion Pro Regular, which I reckon is similar to Palatino. So I'll set this copy in Palatino. Regular. Okay. So if we come down here now, let's get rid of that. Get rid of that. What we've got is on the bottom, we've got Palatino, and above it we've got Minion. So they're different, but they're reasonably similar. So again, this is a case of what can you get access to? Yeah, they're not that close actually, come to think of it. I reckon I could do much better than that. But look, just again, we've got to try to keep in mind the value of this exercise. The value of the exercise is to identify the typeface as best you can, and then find, if you can find where to get it and it costs money. In other words, if it's not a Google font, it's not a free font, if it's not something you can get off Typekit, if it's not something that I have, then the only alternative would be to get a replacement that's similar. And you can do that by searching through Typekit. Yeah, and just get something similar. All right, so that's the trick. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that helps. I better stop this here now. I've prattled on too long. But look, all the best to you, and yeah, speak to you soon. Okay, bye.